What's up, Stitches? My name is Michael and welcome to or back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be talking to you about pricing your knitwear items. I'm going to be giving you some advice and things that worked for me. If you like this type of advice video, then please do give me a like. It lets me know that you want to see more of this sort of stuff. And subscribe if you want to keep up to date with everything that I'm doing. Click the notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I am still working on other projects and other videos, but I thought I'd sit down and just talk to you guys and give you some advice on what helped me. If you want to see more behind the scenes on what I'm working on between videos, then head on over to my Instagram at @SmichaelGoesKnitting to see what I'm working on, see how I'm progressing on other videos, and just generally what's going on in my life. I'm thinking of doing more advice-y type videos, so let me know if this is something that you want, or if you have any questions about anything in particular in the knitting world, leave that down in the comments and I'd be happy to do a video on it addressing those things. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Before I get into my advice and what I have found from doing this myself and talking to other people who have done it and people who value me, I want to direct you guys to Knititude's blog post about this topic. It's very insightful and gives a lot of information. Knititude has been doing this for a few years now, so she has so much knowledge and information to pass on to you guys. Now, one thing I had heard in the past is to price the things you make, you take the materials and you times it by 3. Which is... Don't do that. Don't do that. Because unless you're using materials with a high price point, it doesn't cover the costs that it actually cost you to make the thing. Your time is worth money, and that's something you need to remember. So I'm just going to go through some keywords that Knititude talks about in her blog post. So number 1 is the cost. The cost is the time it takes you to make your product at an hourly rate. So it's pretty simple, and this includes things like adding the finishing touches and tags and bagging it up and all that sort of stuff. Then we have the materials. That one's pretty easy. That is how much your physical materials cost to make this one item. So for example, if you use like 3 skeins of yarn, that's how much those 3 skeins of yarn cost. Then we have the overhead, which is things that you really probably haven't thought about if you're just selling it casually. And these are things like any licensing fees, packaging, time advertising on social media, that sort of thing. So it's all little things that you don't really consider, but definitely need to take into account if you want to make a profit on what you're making. So before I get into it, there's something that I need to address, which I know is something that I personally struggle and people I've spoken to have personally struggled with, and that's self-confidence. You may not have the self-confidence to believe that your item is worth value and what you create is worth value, and I think there's a lot of benefit in taking time to address that and really look into why you think that is, and kind of working through that, because all the while you're sat there thinking that what you created is not worth money, as it stems back to a low self-confidence or you not being worth much. You know, that's something you need to be able to convince yourself that it's worth it before you can convince anyone else. Ultimately, it's all about the perceived value of the thing, because inherently there is no one value for a knitted piece that you've made, because there are so many different variables that go into every handmade piece. So it's all about knowing the value of your work. And there are studies that I've read and that other people have read that say that if you price something as more expensive, people are more likely to buy it because they don't want to be perceived as being cheap or wanting the cheap thing. They want to pay for quality. So that's something you need to remember. Pricing your created stuff is not just an issue in the knitting community or even the crochet community, it's an issue in the wider art world, because it's difficult to quantify what a finished piece is worth, because obviously you have the materials and that is something that you can see and quantify, and that is that. But it's all about working out what your time, and not just your time, your skill is worth, because people aren't just paying for the time that you spent actually knitting the piece. They're also paying for the years or months that you have been learning to knit and learning different knitting styles, learning different stitches, learning how to read patterns, learning how to modify different patterns to fit better. You know, so it's not just the time that you put in, it's the collective time that you, and experience that you have that's allowed you to create this piece in the way it is now. If someone is coming in and they don't believe that your work has value, and you know, they can buy it cheaper at a supermarket, that's not the person that you want to be selling to, because ultimately they don't appreciate the hard work that you've put into creating this item. As I mentioned before, there are studies that suggest that things that are priced higher are more likely to be bought because they feel like they're paying for more quality, and that's what they are paying for with hand knit items. They're paying for quality. And look, these people who are looking to buy a hand knit thing for the quality and are happy to pay, they may not come straight away, and that's something that you need to be okay with and be secure enough within yourself that you know that it's a good piece and someone will come along and buy it, and it may not be straight away, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Hi, Editing Charlotte here. I do just want to clarify that when I'm talking about all of this, I'm talking about when you want to casually sell your knitted items, not if this is for your business. I completely understand that there may be more pressure on you if this is for your business and for your sole income. This is just kind of for people who don't rely on this as their income. Another question that came up was, how do you make sure you pay yourself well while pricing it to be affordable for others? And that's a really valid question, because there's been a lot of conversation recently within the knitting community about affordability. Now obviously you can use materials that cost less, that's one way of making the price lower. And another thing you can do is you can save time. If you were to knit with fingering weight yarn, you can size up to DK weight yarn, and that'll knit up a bit quicker, so then you won't be spending as many hours. So the finished project won't have all those hours put behind it, and so that can cut costs that way. But I think what is really important is making sure that you do price your time well, because the last thing we want to do is devalue all of handmade items by not believing in ourselves. So if we put a jumper online for a low price and people see that and they perceive that jumpers, hand knit jumpers, are supposed to be that low price. So then when someone else puts up a jumper that is similar but is priced more appropriately, then they face a harder time, because consumers then believe that that is overpriced for what it is. And so we need to make sure we have a good balance where everyone is valuing their work at the correct level, so that other creators don't get automatically devalued by customers. Another thing I've heard is people saying, it's just a hobby. I mean, I enjoy my knitting. I don't need to make loads of money off it. You know, I just want to sell this one item. It's not a business. It's just, I want to sell this item. That's great in theory, and I'm very happy that you enjoy knitting. I do too. Here's the thing. If this is your hobby, that's great, and I'm very happy for you. But you're still selling an item, and the sale from that item, if you continue to sell knitted items, at some point it's going to be a form of income. And therefore, you know, it's going to be a business, and whether you enjoy it or not. There are people out there who enjoy their job, and they don't go to their bosses and say, you know what, actually I really enjoy this job, so take 10 grand off my salary. Like, it's just, I really enjoy coming to work. So yeah, it doesn't work that way. So your time is still worth money whether you enjoy what you're doing or not, and you need to value yourself. And then you have the argument of, well, I can buy it cheaper in a supermarket. Okay. Go do that then. You're not a supermarket. You made a handmade thing, and as Knititude said, you are an amazing human being. You make stuff with your hands, with your mind, and with your soul. You are worth every goddamn mother effing penny and deserve to be paid a minimum wage. You deserve to make profit. You deserve to have your item to be taken seriously, even if it's just your hobby. I think that's important to remember. There's something that's very truly insightful about this whole thing, is you are worth money. If you value yourself too low, then you set the standard for other people to value you low. And if you sell an item to a person for a lower price, then they're unlikely to recommend you to their friends, being like, oh hey, like this is a very talented creator who has high quality products. They're not cheap, but they're worth it, as opposed to, this is hand knit items for a really good price. You'll definitely get a really good price if you go to this person. I think ultimately you just need to take your self-worth away from this entire situation and just believe and know that someone out there will want what you're making. And it may take a while for them to find your work, but when they do, it'll be so much more worth it than selling things for a lower price than what they're actually worth. So finally, the sum I use to work out the price of my knitted items is you work out the cost, material and the overhead as mentioned earlier in the video, add them all together, and then that is the price I sell my knitted items for. So I hope I gave you some good points to think about, and I hope you found this video useful. If you did like this video, then drop me a like. That lets me know that you enjoyed what I'm doing and I should continue doing the same. If you like what I do, then hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and you'll be able to see all of my content in the future. I've got quite a lot planned, so that's something to look forward to. And as I said, I have my Instagram where I post pretty frequently and I keep you guys updated in my stories and ask you any questions over there. So if you want to see all of that, then head over to Michael Goes Knitting. If you have any other questions that you may want answering, then put them down in the comments below and I'm happy to answer them for you. I hope you guys take away from this that you are worth so much. You created something with your own hands, it's handmade, it's completely 100% unique, and you need to remember that, and people will pay for high quality, one-of-a-kind items. So I seem to be keeping up with my consistent YouTube video posting, so again, subscribe if you want to see new videos every Wednesday. Other than that, I will see you guys around. Stay wholesome and happy knitting.